discussing that area. Is that section of 600 considered an industrial park?
It's part of the TIF district. As far as an industrial park, I'm not sure what, it's not really a rail connect. So it's part of our TIF district that we use, which is a tax increment funding area.
Okay, then let me ask you this. Why is there a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit through that area?
Well, in all honesty, if anybody went 55 in that area, they're gonna go across those railroad tracks.
They do. You would not believe how fast some of those people cross those tracks.
Exactly right.
Michael, have you got any suggestion on that one? That's just part of roads are 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. If it needs to be changed, then we would have to be petitioned.
Nothing has come up for the highway to change it. Nobody's ever said anything. With the work that we've done out there, we've been out there quite a bit. It's never come up, so nothing's ever been changed.
Well, with all the semis that's going through there, I think that's a little excessive.
You're thinking semis are going past
Not
the
some of-
strikers at 55 miles an
No,
hour?
not the semis in some cases, but the private vehicles. Semis
What
run.
did you just say about semis? I'm sorry, I missed that part again.
I said some of the semis are probably doing better than 40, but a lot of the private vehicles are doing well over that.
Okay, but the limit's 55.
As far as I know, that's what the county,
The limit's 55 unless it's different than that, unless it's posted differently. And there is a way to deal with that. Michael, you can help me if I'm wrong, but we can have like Region 3A do a traffic count and come up with the average speeds, and we can make an ordinance that changes that. We can't go faster, but we
Yeah.
can go slower. And I've only ever been involved in one of those. That was on County Road 300 North. We had people telling us that they were traveling too fast on 300 North, and we did a traffic count and the traffic and speed patterns, and it showed they weren't going fast. But it can be done. Is that right, Michael?
Yeah, you take the average speed, you have to use a radar gun preferably, and you take the average speed of 100 cars, you multiply that times 0.85, and that is supposed to then become your speed limit. It can be changed by 5-mile-an-hour increments, depending on whether there's hilly roads in the area or the railroad tracks. That would change it by 5 miles an hour. But it's the 85th percentile, it's called, is what you use based on 100 cars average speed.
Okay, anything else? Okay, next item on our agenda is our county attorney, Dan Sigler. Dan?
Yes, Commissioners. I reviewed this at Don's request, this mental health wellness center, the state statute, to see what, what the county's obligation is. And it's twofold, to build a community health center, which that's done, and to operate a community health center. I find a lot of shalls in the statute. And so basically the only question is when you apply the formula, how much is it? And that's set forth in subsection 2B under funding. There's a 3-step process. I don't know who does that in your case or in our case, but it's based upon the county's levied amounts of property taxes.
All they do is they just use, every year at budget time, the state will say, this is your growth quotient for the county. And all they do is they use that same number, which they can do legally.
Right.
But I just think this is a case where mental health had the best lobbyist.
Right, right, yeah.
I mean, this is, you know, if we could just see what we get for $180,000, if it was just tangible, you know, we give Parkview Whitley Hospital $300,000, and you can see those ambulances out there every day doing their job. We're just not, and we get no more bills from Parkview. Okay, now we're paying $170-some thousand for something that does not appear to be tangible, and they bill us every time we utilize their services. So my suggestion, my question is, should we go to our state senator and our state representatives and say, you know, can we lobby against this?
We're gonna change the formula. Good question. I think that's where you're at with it. I don't know, because there's no escape valve in the statute itself. I think it's something that's gonna have to be the considered effort of the various legislators that represent the senator and the representative that represent this area, and see if there's any willingness to embark upon that journey. I think it's probably gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Because most of this is already in place, but I don't know that. I don't know the legislative history. I don't know what went into why this was created in this fashion. I'm sure it was in response to some emergencies or problems or holes in mental health care. And in general, having mental health care in a community obviously is a thing that you want to have. It's just how do you fund it and where's the competition and where is it?
My understanding was that when the state dumped all the mental health
Hospitals,
problems
yeah.
from the hospitals and tried to get them into the jails, then it became an issue. Then they started with this.
Right, it's one of the many over the last several decades of transferring of responsibility from the state out to government units that we've seen. And, you know, you can name other things too, we all can, but, yeah, I don't see, I mean, legally, I mean, when the statute says shall, you will. And so, the only question I had was in the formula, and you just explained to me then that you.
No, that's
you know,
airtight.
It's just like cost of living, a COLA adjustment, you just get, basically, that's what you're getting, is a COLA adjustment.
Exactly right.
Okay.
That gives my question to Jim. Jim, would you mind contacting your fellow auditors just to make sure that all the other counties have the same thing and are paying one or more in their counties? And I suppose, Mr. Chairman, we have to move this along to the council.
Right.
Or, I believe it's in our budget, right? So we might as well add it, but that doesn't mean we can't fight it for 14. It just means it needs appropriated, but,
Gonna
It's
take
dated
a while.
1/30.
yeah.
And along that line, how many other agencies do we have that kind of works with our employees?
Through our EAP system outside of the Bowen Center, we have 2
Okay.
other agencies.
So our employees could go there or either one of the other.
Correct.
We have three
We've got 3
choices.
total. They've got 3 choices.
Now, we get a report from Bowen, how many people they see total.
We do get a count. We don't get names,
Yes.
we get a count, correct.
Do we get that from the other agencies? How do they compare number of participants wise? Call it what you want.
There's 2 of the providers right now that are currently utilized the most, and that one of them is the Bowen Center.
Along the same line, is it fair to say, what's the cost? Is there a big cost difference between?
It's the same.
It's exactly the same. Okay.
Well, next year it goes to $181,340.
We'll just keep climbing as long as.
Won't be long. Commissioner Amber said it would be 200,000. I'm not saying it's not necessary, I'm just saying, I agree, I think somewhere along the line, they just see the formula and compare it to your assessed value and let it go.
County an exception in this?
Yeah, Lake County.
No.
They have their own set of laws over there.
They have their own, yeah.
You can't come up with an assessed value, so you never get it right.
That's about right.
That's true, they can't
How
come
many
up
people
with
they
it.
have in there?
That's their issue.
Okay, to move on, then I have two ordinances for you to consider. These both come from Scott Wagner. The first is simply, I'm talking about the on-site sewage disposal system statute, which is already in place since 2011. The only change necessary in this was based upon the state changing the numbers of certain of the administrative code sections. And since our ordinance cites back to their numbered code sections, in order to make it read back and forth with the state statute, we have to change the language, or just the numbers, and that's what this amendment does. And what I did is, I went through in subsection 1B there, in the second page, 1A, and I read through the thing, and I got all the numbers all the places we use the numbers that needed to be changed and included them, and then B is a catch-all that says if I missed any, they're all changed too. So, just to be safe. So that's what that is. Both this and the next statute, when you pass an ordinance, there has to be, if it's fine or penalty, fine or forfeiture maybe, it has to have two publications. And so these both ultimately do in the statute, although all the amendments don't really affect that. So I always say to fall on the safe side. The sewage disposal statute in the state and the amendments do not begin until July 1st, so we got time on that.
So are you saying we don't pass this ordinance now?
No, you do as of,
July 1?
yeah, at the bottom it says this ordinance shall take, you can pass it now, but it doesn't take effect till July 1. But it's the same ordinance anyway, so it almost doesn't make any difference.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we pass ordinance 2013-05.
A motion,
That's sewage disposal.
Yeah, only this one right now.
Second.
a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor raise the right hand, opposed the same. Okay, that's ordinance number 2013-05.
Okay, the next ordinance is the one relating to junk and trash. And as you recall, I believe it was 2 meetings ago, we had a discussion about this, and then Scott was here, as whether or not we would expand the junk and trash because it was limited by track size. And the discussion was, just take a look at an ordinance that changed that, but yet protected the farmer from being accused of, having equipment sitting outside as being trash somehow. And so we developed a language that said that the chapter doesn't apply to a parcel that is farmed for crops and is owned by an individual or corporation whose primary and full occupation is farming, and 2, does not apply to parcels that are cash rented for farming. So that's what I put in the ordinance. There's no, obviously there's no rush to this ordinance. We don't have to, the other one we needed to pass before July 1st. This is just, it is the idea that was discussed with Scott's presentation and is placed before you for review. And you can pass it any time or not pass it as you wish.
Trying to read 53-03. I don't know. It says exception for certain tracks. But then it goes down and it says they do not apply to any tract of land that is 1A, farmed by crops, is owned by an individual corporation whose primary and full occupation is farming, and 2, this does not apply to parcels that are cash rented for farming. I'm having trouble where it does not apply.
The junk and trash ordinance,
You're telling me that if I own 200 acres and I rent it to Don, that it's not gonna apply to me, I can pile the junk as high as I want to.
right, yeah. If you're gonna make this kind of exception, that is a whole. I didn't draft it not to have
Well,
any
Don
holes in
and
it.
I talked about it here once, I said,
Yeah.
what? And the first one you said, is do not apply to any tract of land, so my question, what are we changing? Or who are we
You're-
saying this doesn't affect, and it's basically for partners, right?
It's basically for farmers.
Yeah, we're trying to protect the farmer here. That's who we're trying to
Exactly.
protect. Okay.
Exactly. Well, first of all, the effort is, the primary effort was to go to larger tracts, which are all exempted now, over 20 acres. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the effort was to move in a direction, I think, and I'm speaking on Scott's behalf, so I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but what I understood it to be was, look, we wanna police the whole county for junk and trash, but we understand that there's a lot of agricultural people out there that have their equipment outside. Everybody doesn't have a shed for every piece of equipment. There are older pieces of equipment that they may have for parts, and they may bring parts into service or whatever the situation is. We don't want to make this a problem for farmers, and so that was the reason for the exemption. But I agree, if you pass this, you have a hole, because if a person comes to you and he's a full-time farmer and he piles his tract with trash, you have no enforceability there. So that's, at least with this version, you know. If that's a concern, we'll try to come up with another draft.
I don't know the answer, I'm
Right.
just saying, because somewhere close to where I live, there's an individual that has cars and everything else sitting around that aren't properly licensed, they just set, well, he has about, I don't know, 20, 30 acres of hay, and he lets some guy, I guess that's farming, come in and mow and take the hay. He's selling it.
Right, yeah, I mean, you have an argument that it qualified,
But I'm just saying, he can get by with it. Doesn't make any difference what the effect is.
what would you think about approaching it from, and I haven't even thought about this till right this moment, but what if you would you think about approaching it from the standpoint of limiting what was on the track to agricultural equipment? Then you've tightened it up, because then there can't be cars, there can't be. Now, you still have, what's the definition of agricultural equipment? It's still problematic, but it's tighter. So that's one of the ways you might consider going on this.
Mr. Chairman, here's an attack I'd like to take. I would like to table 2013-04.
Okay. Got a motion to table?
Second.
Got a second? Any discussion? All those in favor raise the right hand, opposed the same.
And just, we need to sit down with Scott and Dan and look at this thing a little
Right,
more,
right.
so.
Yeah, I think it could be refined a little bit better than what we got it.
So if you table one of my ordinances, does that mean I can't charge for it?
Right. Not until they approve it. I will not see what
Let's
Don
go back to
said.
2013-05.
I can see a lot of things being tabled in the future. That's all I have for today. And you guys,
I had a couple of issues for Dan, but I'll probably get with you once things get more organized here.
yeah, be great.
A couple of issues with one road that has been expanded.